Shah, former star of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, has officially been released from prison earlier than expected, and the news has sent shockwaves through the reality television world, legal commentators, and fans alike. Her early release marks a significant turn in a case that once dominated headlines for fraud, betrayal, and the darker side of fame. While many expected Shah to serve most of her original sentence, recent developments changed that timeline, raising questions about how and why she was freed sooner. Shah had been serving time after pleading guilty to federal fraud charges connected to a nationwide telemarketing scheme that targeted vulnerable victims. The case was widely covered not only because of the severity of the crimes, but also because Shah was a highly visible reality TV personality who portrayed a lavish lifestyle on screen. Her sentencing was seen by many as a cautionary tale about accountability, especially for public figures who profit from influence and image. According to official records, Shah's early release was not the result of a pardon or overturned conviction. Instead, it stemmed from a combination of factors commonly applied within the federal prison system. These include good behavior credits, participation in rehabilitation programs, and updated calculations related to sentencing guidelines. In recent years, the Bureau of Prisons has expanded opportunities for inmates to earn time credits by completing educational courses, work assignments, and behavioral improvement programs. Shah reportedly qualified under these provisions. Sources familiar with the situation indicate that Shah maintained a relatively clean disciplinary record while incarcerated. In the federal system, consistent good conduct can significantly reduce time served. In addition, participation in certain approved programs can further accelerate eligibility for supervised release or halfway house placement. These policies are designed to encourage rehabilitation rather than punishment alone, regardless of the inmate's public profile. Still, the reaction to Shah's early release has been deeply divided. Some viewers and commentators argue that the system worked as intended, rewarding compliance and rehabilitation. Others feel uncomfortable seeing a high-profile figure regain freedom earlier than expected, especially given the scale and impact of the crimes involved. For victims of fraud schemes, early release can feel like unfinished justice, even when it follows legal procedure. Social media response has been swift and intense. Longtime Real Housewives fans have revisited old clips, analyzing Shah's on-screen behavior through a new lens. Critics point to moments from the show that now seem to foreshadow legal trouble, while supporters claim that reality television often exaggerates personalities for entertainment. The conversation has reignited debates about how reality TV fame intersects with real-world consequences. Another major question surrounding Shah's release is what comes next. While she is no longer behind bars, she is not free from legal oversight. Early release typically comes with strict conditions, including supervised release, limitations on travel, mandatory check-ins, and restrictions on business activities. Any violation of these terms could result in serious consequences. This phase of her sentence will be closely monitored, especially given her previous conduct. There is also widespread speculation about whether Shah will attempt a return to public life. Reality television thrives on redemption arcs, scandals, and comebacks, but her situation presents unique challenges. Networks must balance audience curiosity with ethical considerations, and advertisers may be cautious about association. While some fans believe she will try to tell her story through interviews, books, or documentaries, others question whether the public appetite for such content exists. From a broader perspective, Shah's early release highlights ongoing changes in the U.S. criminal justice system. Federal reforms have increasingly emphasized rehabilitation, sentence reevaluation, and reduced incarceration for nonviolent offenders who demonstrate progress. While these policies apply broadly, cases involving celebrities tend to receive outsized attention, often distorting public perception of how common such releases actually are. Legal experts note that early release does not erase guilt or responsibility. Shah's conviction remains on record, and the financial and reputational damage from the case is permanent. Restitution obligations, public scrutiny, and loss of trust are consequences that extend far beyond prison walls. In that sense, release marks a transition rather than an ending. For Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, the news inevitably reopens conversations about the show's legacy. Shah was one of its most polarizing figures, known for explosive confrontations and extravagant displays. Her legal downfall became intertwined with the show's identity, shaping storylines and audience perception. Even without her return, her presence continues to influence how the franchise is discussed. Ultimately, Jen Shah's early release is less about celebrity privilege and more about how structured systems operate when inmates meet specific criteria. Whether the public accepts that explanation is another matter entirely. Fame ensures scrutiny, and scrutiny ensures debate. As Shah steps into the next chapter under supervision, every move will be watched, analyzed, and judged. Jen Shah's early release has opened a new phase that is far more complex than simply walking out of prison. Life after incarceration brings constant scrutiny, especially for someone whose name is permanently tied to a high-profile fraud case. Every public move she makes now carries weight, and the margin for error is extremely small. Unlike before, there is no separation between her private life and public perception. Both are now closely intertwined. One of the biggest unknowns is how Shah will navigate accountability moving forward. Serving time is only one part of the consequence. Rebuilding trust, particularly with a public that watched her downfall in real time, is a much harder task. Many critics believe true responsibility will be shown not through words, but through consistent actions over time, including compliance with legal obligations and a respectful distance from exploitative publicity. Another major focus is the emotional impact this release has had on those affected by her crimes. Fraud cases often leave lasting damage that goes beyond financial loss, including stress, fear, and long-term insecurity. For those individuals, news of an early release can feel deeply unsettling. Even when the law allows it, the emotional reality for victims rarely aligns with legal timelines, creating a disconnect that fuels public anger. There is also growing discussion about whether Shah understands the shift in power dynamics she now faces. Before prison, she controlled her narrative through reality television and social media. Now, that control is limited. Legal restrictions, public skepticism, and media framing all shape how her story is told. Any attempt to rush a comeback could reinforce negative perceptions rather than soften them. Industry insiders are closely watching how entertainment platforms respond. While controversy often drives ratings, there is increasing pressure on networks to demonstrate ethical responsibility. Featuring someone convicted of exploiting vulnerable people comes with reputational risks. Even if Shah is never invited back on television, her case may influence how future reality stars are vetted and portrayed. From a legal standpoint, supervised release is not a symbolic gesture. It is a structured environment with strict expectations. Financial transparency, restricted business involvement, and regular oversight are common conditions. For someone previously accused of deception, this level of monitoring is both necessary and challenging. Any misstep could quickly undo the progress made through early release. Public opinion remains sharply divided. Some see Shah as an example of the justice system allowing rehabilitation and second chances. Others see her release as evidence that consequences for white-collar crime are never enough. This tension reflects a broader societal debate about punishment versus reform, especially when the offender is wealthy or famous. As attention slowly shifts from the shock of Jen Shah's early release to what follows next, the long-term implications of her case continue to unfold. Time outside prison does not erase the weight of a federal conviction, especially one that involved deliberate deception. For Shah, freedom comes with a permanent reminder that her actions reshaped not only her own life, but the lives of countless others who trusted her. One critical challenge ahead is financial responsibility. Court-ordered restitution is often a lengthy and demanding process, requiring years of payments and strict oversight. This obligation limits career choices and financial independence, making any attempt to rebuild wealth far more complicated than before. For someone once known for extravagant spending, adapting to financial restraint may be one of the hardest adjustments. Public silence may also become a strategic necessity. In an era where personal branding thrives on constant visibility, choosing to stay out of the spotlight can be both frustrating and wise. Observers note that restraint, rather than self-promotion, may be the only path toward any form of credibility. Oversharing, deflection, or self-victimization could quickly reignite backlash. The cultural impact of Shah's case extends beyond her individual story. It has reshaped conversations around accountability in reality television, forcing audiences to question how much of what they see is performance versus reality. Producers and networks are now more aware that legal consequences can emerge from off-camera actions, changing how risk is managed behind the scenes. There is also an unavoidable psychological component to re-entry. Adjusting to daily life after incarceration often involves anxiety, loss of identity, and difficulty re-establishing relationships. For someone who once thrived on public validation, that adjustment may be even more intense. How Shah manages this transition privately will likely influence her public choices. Over time, media interest will inevitably decline, but the record remains. Background checks, public documents, and online archives ensure that her past cannot be rewritten. Any future endeavor, whether business, advocacy, or creative work, will exist under the shadow of her conviction. Success will require transparency and patience rather than speed or spectacle. In the end, Jen Shah's early release is not a turning point defined by celebration, but by responsibility. The spotlight that once fueled her rise now serves as a constant reminder of accountability. Whether her future becomes a story of genuine change or a cautionary footnote depends entirely on the choices she makes when the cameras are no longer rolling. As the public narrative continues to evolve, Jen Shah's situation now exists in a quieter but more consequential phase. Without court dates or prison walls defining her days, the responsibility of self-governance becomes central. This period tests whether the lessons often claimed after incarceration translate into consistent, disciplined behavior when external enforcement feels less immediate. Trust, once broken at a national level, is not easily repaired. For Shah, credibility will not return through explanations or public statements, but through sustained distance from the behaviors that led to her conviction. Even neutral actions may be interpreted skeptically, a reality that accompanies anyone whose misconduct played out in full public view. There is also the question of identity. For years, Shah's public persona was shaped by confrontation, status, and spectacle. Stripped of those platforms, she must redefine herself outside of fame-driven validation. This shift can be destabilizing, but it also offers the only realistic path toward a more grounded future. Observers note that the most meaningful indicator of change may be what is never seen. Avoiding publicity, declining opportunities that capitalize on scandal, and prioritizing compliance over visibility all signal restraint. In contrast, any attempt to monetize notoriety could undermine claims of personal growth. From a societal standpoint, her case continues to influence how white-collar crime is perceived. It reinforces the idea that consequences extend far beyond sentencing, affecting reputation, opportunity, and long-term autonomy. Early release may alter the timeline, but it does not lessen the permanence of record or memory. Ultimately, the final chapter of Jen Shah's story is unwritten. The attention surrounding her release will fade, replaced by quieter judgments based on behavior rather than headlines. Whether she becomes an example of reform or remains a symbol of caution will depend not on past notoriety, but on future restraint. As months pass and public focus drifts to new headlines, Jen Shah will face a different kind of reality, one without constant media noise, but filled with long-term consequences. This stage is often the most revealing, because it shows how someone behaves when attention is no longer guaranteed. Without cameras or public platforms driving momentum, consistency becomes more important than image. Re-establishing personal relationships may prove more challenging than navigating public opinion. Trust within families, friendships, and professional circles takes time to rebuild, especially after actions that caused widespread harm. Private reconciliation, away from public statements, is often where genuine accountability is measured. Another factor shaping Shah's future is limitation. Legal restrictions, financial oversight, and reputational damage all narrow the range of opportunities available to her. Unlike before, choices must be calculated and cautious. Even well-intentioned decisions may require approval or oversight, reinforcing the reality that freedom after conviction is conditional. Her case also serves as a reminder of how quickly public favor can turn. Fame, once used as leverage, can become a liability when scrutiny replaces admiration. For many observers, this transformation is the most enduring lesson of her story. Visibility amplifies both success and failure. Over time, silence may speak louder than reinvention. A low-profile life focused on compliance, responsibility, and personal stability could slowly reshape perception, even if forgiveness never fully arrives. In the end, Jen Shah's future will not be defined by how loudly she returns, but by how carefully she moves forward. Former Real Housewives of Salt Lake City star Jen Shah was released from federal prison on Wednesday, more than 4 years early from her 6.5-year sentence, a Federal Bureau of Prisons spokesperson confirmed to NBC News. Shah has been moved from federal prison camp, a minimum security federal prison camp in Texas, to community confinement overseen by the Bureau of Prisons, the spokesperson, Emery Nelson, said in a statement. Nelson added that Shah is either in home confinement or a halfway house, but would not specify due to privacy and safety concerns. Shah was arrested in March 2021 while Bravo cameras were rolling in connection with an alleged nationwide telemarketing fraud scheme. After insisting that she was innocent on the Bravo series, even using the following tagline for the show's second season, "The only thing I'm guilty of is being Shahmazing," she pleaded guilty to wire fraud in 2022. In 2023, she was sentenced to 78 months in federal prison and ordered to forfeit $6,500,000 and dozens of luxury items in restitution. Shah served her sentence at the same Texas facility that houses disgraced Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes and Ghislaine Maxwell. Her release date was repeatedly moved up throughout her time in prison. People reported news of Shah's December 10 release date last month, sending shockwaves across the Bravo universe. Despite Shah's popularity on the Bravo show, Andy Cohen, who executive produces the Salt Lake City reality show, shot down speculations last week about Shah's possible return to the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. "I wish her all the best in her next life. I would assume she'll wind up on a reality show of some kind, but won't be anything I'm working on," Cohen said on his radio show, Radio Andy. "I don't know if I could see Bravo working with her again." Shah is among a long list of Bravo stars accused of misconduct. Real Housewives of New Jersey star Teresa Giudice and her husband, Joe Giudice, were sentenced to federal prison in 2014 after pleading guilty to federal fraud charges. In June, Tom Girardi, the husband of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Erika Jayne, was sentenced to 7 years and 3 months in prison for embezzling millions of dollars from former clients. Real Housewives of Potomac star Karen Huger, who is known by fans as the Grand Dame, served a 1-year sentence at a Maryland prison for driving under the influence. In September, she was released from prison. RHOP star Wendy Osifo and former RHOP star Mia Thornton have been arrested in recent weeks for different crimes. Osifo has not entered a plea and called the charges unfortunate in a recent appearance at BravoCon. Thornton did not respond to a previous request for comment, and it is unclear whether she has an attorney. Jen Shah has officially been released from prison, People can exclusively reveal. The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City Alum, 52, departed the federal prison camp in Bryan, Texas, in the early hours of Wednesday, December 10, a rep for the star confirms. She has been behind bars since February 17, 2023, 2 years, 9 months, and 23 days, for her role in a long-running nationwide telemarketing fraud scheme. Just where Shah headed after her release is remaining under wraps right now. According to BOP policy, Shah could either have been released to her home or transferred to a halfway house to complete the remaining portion of her sentence under supervision. And while a final decision was made prior to her departure, that information is not being revealed yet in order to protect her privacy. We can confirm that Jennifer Shah transferred on December 10, 2025, from the federal prison camp, FPC, Bryan to community confinement overseen by the Bureau of Prisons, BOP, Phoenix Residential Reentry Management, RRM, office, a BOP spokesperson told People. Community confinement means the inmate is in either home confinement or a residential reentry center, RRC, or halfway house. For privacy, safety, and security reasons, we do not disclose an individual's specific location while in community confinement. Shah, along with her assistant, Stuart Smith, was arrested in March 2021 for allegedly targeting thousands of individuals, including the elderly, in a nationwide fraud scheme. They were both charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud in connection with telemarketing and conspiracy to commit money laundering, the former of which Shah pled guilty to in July 2022. "I am sorry. My actions have hurt innocent people," the reality star said at her sentencing on January 6, 2023. "I want to apologize by saying, I am doing all I can to earn the funds to pay restitution." She was given a 6.5-year sentence and surrendered herself on February 17, 2023. Her sentence was later reduced several times, a decision the Bureau of Prisons attributed to good behavior, participation in prison programming and financial payments she has begun making to victims. In total, Shah has been ordered to pay $6.5 million in restitution. In March 2023, just 1 month after she began serving her time at the FPC in Bryan, Texas, a minimum security facility that also houses prominent inmates including Elizabeth Holmes and Ghislaine Maxwell, Shah's time was cut by 1 year. It was decreased again in October 2024 and in January 2025, moving her projected release date to November 3, 2026. In August, another reduction brought her release date up to August 30, 2026. People exclusively reported in mid-November that the Federal Bureau of Prisons approved Shah's early release for December 10. Everyone's very grateful for the BOP's decision, especially because it means Jen will be able to reunite with her family for the holidays, Shah's manager, Chris Giovanni, told People at the time. It's a gift she doesn't take for granted. Jen's in a really positive, hopeful place mentally, he added. She's done a lot of reflecting and real growth during her time away and is genuinely not the same woman as she was before. Her focus is on her family and building a healthier, more grounded life. She understands the seriousness of the mistakes she made and is excited to put this chapter behind her so that she can show everyone the woman she's worked hard to become. A representative for the Federal Bureau of Prisons told People, for privacy, safety, and security reasons, we do not discuss any incarcerated individuals' conditions of confinement or specific release plans. Throughout her time in federal custody, Jen's husband, University of Utah football coach Coach Shah, has steadily stood by his wife's side. The pair also share 2 sons, Sharif Jr., 31, and Omar, 22. In February 2024, Jen penned a personal letter to People reflecting on the first year of her sentence, describing the unrelenting pain of being away from her family. She further said she had found humility and perspective in the stories of other women at FPC Bryan and wrote that her faith, daily prayer, and therapy had helped her fight despair and stay grounded through the challenges of incarceration.